So welcome to this edition of Seen and Solved. I'm your host, Tim Pennington. We are being joined by Jeremy Morgan, a product manager of biological products at Hubbard-Hall. Thanks for joining us today, Jeremy.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having me on.
You're listening to the Seen and Solved podcast brought to you by Hubbard-Hall. Better results, less chemistry.
Yeah, so this is something that's fairly new to me. I tell you, up until maybe 6 or 8 months ago, I hadn't really heard much about this as far as wastewater treatment is concerned. So I'm very interested in getting into this of talking about biological wastewater treatment. So why don't we start off today real broad? Give us an overview of what is biological wastewater treatment, and kind of fill it in those gaps, people that may not already know of it.
So rather than conventionally removing pollutants or heavy metals or that kind of thing out of a waste stream using chemistry or physical separation means, we're basically using bacteria to break down those compounds and help remove them from the waste stream. The bacteria basically grows in a mass, whether it's in a tank or on a surface. And the waste stream makes contact with the bacteria, and they basically degrade those substances, whether it's BOD, COD, or nutrients like nitrogen or phosphorus, and basically break those compounds down and remove them from the waste stream.
Most people in the finishing industry would look at removing metals and things like that from the wastewater, and like you said, phosphates and things like that are bacterial. Need to be removed as well, right? Those are often measured, right? Am I assuming by the local municipalities?
Oh yeah, certainly so. Some pre-treat systems, maybe may not be permitted on the phosphorus or nitrogen, but that's probably going to change in the future as regulations get tighter and tighter for those municipalities themselves. That's eventually going to trickle on downstream to the pre-treat systems. So I would expect at some point in the future, every pre-treat system will have some kind of nutrient permit for nitrogen and phosphorus both.
So you mentioned two, nitrous and phosphorus. What all can a biological system remove from a wastewater treatment?
Well, the top three things would generally be BOD, COD. That's kind of the primary food source for the bacteria. After that would be what we refer to as macronutrients, which are nitrogen and phosphorus compounds. Nitrogen usually in the form of ammonia, phosphorus in the form of phosphates. After that would be kind of a secondary group of nutrients that we refer to as micronutrients, which are generally trace metals and minerals that help support the bacteria. Now that being said, I don't want people to be confused. We're not really going to be able to remove hundreds of parts of metals using bacteria. And in fact, very high metal levels are inhibitory and toxic to the bacteria, but it works great as a final polish. So if you have a permit limit that's, say, less than 1 milligram per liter, the biological systems will tend to do a very nice job of polishing those down to very, very small part per billion levels.
I'm just curious, how many, take a guess, how many, or maybe you do know the answer, how many finishing shops have something like this? Is it a large number of shops that are already having these type of systems in?
At the moment, probably not very many shops. That's something that I kind of have a feeling in the future will continue to grow, simply because of those nutrient permit limits continuing to drop. As local municipalities receive tighter limits on those compounds, they will eventually pass that along to a lot of shops. So I think that's something that in the future, if the shop isn't able to control those values chemically, biological systems will become more of an option for them.
Wow, something more for them to kind of think about. What types of biological systems are there to use in the wastewater? Are there very many of the different variations, or?
There's several different variations. So Your conventional systems, like you would find at a local municipality or basically a sewage plant, are what we refer to as conventional activated sludge. So in those systems, you basically have a tank or a basin that has a very, very high concentration of bacteria in that system. And as far as concentrations go, somewhere in the neighborhood of usually 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams per liter of suspended solids. And that's basically just suspended in that tank or basin. Now, other systems, which will probably be a bit easier for most metal finishing shops to use, would be what we refer to as fixed film systems. So rather being suspended in a tank or a basin, there's actually surfaces that the bacteria attach themselves to that the waste stream flows over. And so that would be things like biotowers or trickling filters or MBBRs, moving bed bioreactors. Those types of systems tend to be a little bit easier to operate. And, for most metal shops, it's probably going to be a lot easier for them to utilize a fixed film system as opposed to a conventional activated sludge system.
Regulations are always changing. It's always a moving target. So this is great information. Like I said, it's a new way to kind of remove some of those components that you were talking about. But again, listen, I appreciate you taking time out and talking with us, and we will talk soon.
Thanks, Tim. It was great to be here today.
The Scene in South podcast is brought to you by Hubbard-Hall. For more podcasts, visit hubbardhall.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe, rate and review, and join us on social media. Produced by Allcast.